My name is Corvin Dorian. I am 34 years old and I can tell you the exact moment I learned that love can have a receipt. It all started with a phone call. Mom's voice was soft. Too soft. That kind of soft voice she only used when she needed something. The kind of soft voice that made me sit up straight and listen very carefully. "Honey," she said, "we've had a bit of a scare. Your dad was on the roof after the storm trying to fix a leak. He almost fell. He could have broken his neck." I froze in the middle of sorting bills for work. My pencil hovered over the papers. "What do you mean almost fell?" I asked myself. My heart started beating faster. I could feel it all the way up to my ears. Her voice trembled a little as she continued. "He's fine, Corvin, but the roof isn't. The inspector said there's mold, water damage, and the insulation is ruined. It's really bad. We can't afford another loan, not with the medical bills piling up." I felt my stomach drop. The roof. Medical bills? My parents were always careful with money. What had happened? But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me where you watching this from, and what time of day is it? That was all it took. $8,000. That's what the roof repair quote came to. Mom even sent pictures. Close-up pictures of the roof and the ceiling, pictures that made everything look worse than it really was. I could see water stains, some broken shingles and dark spots in corners. It all looked dangerous. I didn't even think twice. I wired the money that same afternoon. My wife, Isolde, didn't ask questions. She just said gently, "They are your parents, Corvin. If they need help, we help." I believed her. I really did. We had been careful with money for years. Every extra dollar went into our daughter's school fund. We were saving for the future. But this was family. Roofs don't wait, especially when your parents say the house is falling apart. For a week there was silence. No messages, no calls, nothing. I began to hope that maybe everything was okay, that the roof was getting fixed and my parents were safe. Then one day I got a single text from Mom. "The guys are working on it. It's noisy," it said. That was all. I didn't think much of it at first. But then one night Isolde came into the living room holding her phone. Her eyebrows were drawn together and she looked worried. "You need to see this," she said softly. I looked over her shoulder. On her screen was a Facebook post from my sister, Eloane. She barely ever used social media, so I was surprised to see anything at all. The caption said, "Finally home." I tapped the screen to look at the pictures. The first photo was of my parents' house. But it wasn't the house I remembered. It was shiny and new. The siding was gray and fresh, the wraparound porch gleamed white, the windows were new and sparkling. There was even new landscaping with little lights shining in the bushes. Then came the inside pictures. My jaw dropped. There was a brand new kitchen with stone countertops and a matching backsplash. New light fixtures hung from the ceiling. The living room looked perfect. There was a pool heater in the backyard, a new deck, and strings of fairy lights curled around the fence posts. It looked like a magazine. But it wasn't the new house that hurt the most. These were the last 10 pictures. A party. Tables covered with white cloth, trays of food, glasses of champagne. My cousins, aunts, uncles, neighbors. Everyone was there. Everyone but me and my daughter. My daughter still drew pictures of Nana and Papa's house with crayons and crooked hearts. She didn't know the house had changed and she hadn't been invited to this party. I scrolled through photo after photo until my hands went numb. I couldn't feel them anymore. I felt my chest tighten. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I messaged Mom. "How's the roof holding up?" Her reply came quickly. "Looks great. We're finally proud of our home again." No mention of the party. No mention of us. I typed again. This time I asked directly, "Why weren't we invited?" 5 minutes later her answer appeared. Cold, sharp and short. "Oh, that was just for family." 4 words. Just for family. I stared at the screen until it went dark. Isolde touched my arm. "What does she mean by that?" she asked. I didn't answer. I walked to the office and opened our shared account. I moved the $8,000 I had sent back into my personal account. No warning, no explanation. If they could change what family meant, I could too. By morning my phone was lit up with 51 missed calls. Mom, Dad, Eloane, and even 2 cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Messages blurred together. "You can't just take that money. We already spent it. You're being dramatic." That afternoon the doorbell rang. Isolde peeked through the window. "It's them," she whispered. My stomach dropped. I opened the door. Mom didn't say a word. She just collapsed to her knees like she had been shot. The sound she made was loud and raw, almost like acting in a play. Dad stood behind her, arms stiff, jaw locked. His silence was heavier than yelling. "You stole our money," Mom wailed. Neighbors peeked out of their windows. I thought of my daughter upstairs, probably hearing everything. "Mom," I said firmly, "get up. You're making a scene." She cried harder, crawling forward like it was some tragedy she had written herself. Isolde appeared behind me, arms folded, face like steel. She didn't have to say a word. I stepped aside and let them in. The longer they stayed outside, the more it would be a neighborhood spectacle. Inside, I didn't offer them water. I didn't ask them to sit. I looked straight at Mom. What was that party? Why weren't we invited? Mom sniffled, dabbing her eyes with tissues from her purse. "It wasn't a party," she said. "Just a little gathering, mostly neighbors and close family." "And what am I?" I asked. She didn't answer. Dad finally spoke, voice low. "The roof's fixed." I looked at him. Funny because I saw new siding, new windows, new landscaping. "That doesn't look like just a roof," I said. "Well," Mom said, straightening, "your mom wanted to make the house nice again. We took out a loan, but we used your money as a deposit." "A deposit?" I cut in. "You guilt me into wiring money because you said Dad almost fell off the roof. You said the house was falling apart." Mom's tone sharpened. "It was falling apart emotionally. You lied to me for a facelift?" I repeated incredulously. Her expression flickered. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. Inside was a glossy catalog page with a dollhouse circled in red marker. The one my daughter had begged for all summer. "It's already in the car," she said. "She deserves something nice. Don't let this ruin her happiness." Took everything in me not to laugh. "You used my money to buy my daughter a dollhouse," I said quietly. Mom's eyes glistened. "She'll love it," she said. I said, "I'm sure she will. But you're still walking home." Dad stiffened. "You're really going to throw your parents out like this? It's late. You live 10 blocks away. You'll manage." They stood there waiting for me to break. I didn't. They left without a goodbye. No apology, no attempt at truth. Just the sound of the door closing behind them, sealing something I hadn't realized had been left open too long. That night, Isolde found me sitting at the kitchen table staring at the catalog page. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. I shook my head. "No. I regret believing them." We gave the dollhouse to our daughter the next morning. She squealed, hugged us both, and started setting up the tiny furniture right there on the carpet. She didn't know what it represented, but I did. It wasn't a gift. It was bait, and I finally stopped biting. For 9 days the phone stayed quiet. I thought maybe they had taken the hint. But on the 10th day, everything changed again. At 6:14 a.m. a text came through. "Your father hasn't eaten properly in days. I hope you're happy, Corvin." I set the phone face down on the counter and stirred my daughter's oatmeal. Isolde glanced over the rim of her mug with a question in her eyes. "Are we starting this day with chaos or with peace?" she asked. I picked peace, slid the phone into a drawer, and kissed my daughter's head as she told me that the tiny cardboard family in her new dollhouse were going on vacation to the fridge. At 9:03 a.m. another text arrived. "Do you think your daughter even remembers us?" By noon Mom switched strategies. "I guess your wife's opinion matters more than your own now." That one landed like a fingernail on a chalkboard. The way she said "your wife" made it sound like Isolde was controlling me. I typed and erased 3 responses, then decided the only answer worth giving was a boundary. I blocked her number. An hour later she went public. Eloan's feed pinged Isolde again. A photo of the dollhouse, still in the box, staged under soft lighting in my parents' garage. Caption: "Bought this for our little princess. Maybe one day she'll see it. Maybe one day her mother will let her." The comments filled fast. "Grandparents are irreplaceable. Kids always come back. Praying for family restoration." Eloan dropped a heart emoji. Of course she did. She only called me when she needed a sitter or a ride or a signature. Tears for strangers. Invoices for me. By evening the coincidences began. Dad waited for me in the frozen aisle near the school-adjacent grocery store, parked between the peas and the ice cream like a sentry. He didn't even pretend to be surprised when I turned the corner. "Going to keep dragging this out?" he asked, arms crossed, voice pitched low, calm enough to sound reasonable, loud enough for the woman with the cart of pre-made casseroles to hear. Dragging what out? I said, studying a bag of stir-fry vegetables I didn't plan to buy. Punishing your mother? He asked. I'm not punishing her, I said. I'm stepping back. He sniffed. Same thing. I put the vegetables in my cart and walked away. He didn't follow, but the frost followed me to my car. 2 days later, Mom materialized at the coffee shop by my office. She sat one table over, flipping a magazine upside down until I looked up. Then she said loudly enough for the barista and the woman typing in noise-canceling headphones to hear, "Are you really okay with your daughter growing up without grandparents?" I stood, left my coffee full on the table and walked straight out into the cold. On the street, my hands shook, not from fear but from a familiar grief. The one you feel when you realize the person you were trying to negotiate with isn't negotiating at all. They're staging. That night my phone rang from an unknown number. I shouldn't have picked it up. I did. Corvin. It's your aunt. The aunt who usually stayed neutral. Switzerland with better casseroles. Before I could answer, Mom took the line. You've changed, she said. Ever since you married her, you're not the same. You're cold, disrespectful, proud. He will leave you. When he does, we'll still be here. We're the only ones who will love you after. For a second the floor tilted. Not because I believed her, but because she knew exactly where to aim. The soft spot every married person carries. The one labeled, "What if I'm hard to love?" Isolde was at the sink behind me rinsing plates. I put the call on speaker and let the whole poison spill into the open. When it ended, she dried her hands, set the towel down and asked very calmly, "So what are you going to do?" I stared at the wall clock and felt something inside click over from hoping to knowing. I'm going to show them what it looks like when I stop playing along. I blocked Mom's new phone number. Then I blocked Dad's. Then Alohan's. Then the cousins who had only a few questions. Then the aunt who always coughed before saying something like, "Well, you know how your mom is," like it was some kind of prediction. I was tired of everyone trying to tell me what to do, or pretending they knew what was best for me. I needed quiet. For the first time in a long while, the house stayed quiet. It stayed quiet for 12 hours. 12 hours without calls, without messages, without anyone telling me I was doing something wrong. But I didn't feel peace yet. It felt strange, almost like the quiet before a storm. The next day at noon, someone knocked on our door. I checked the camera. It was Cousin Marisol. She was standing on the porch holding a tray of lemon bars. Her smile was small and tight, the same way it had been when we were kids. Marisol doesn't like fights at all. She cries if someone builds a hotel in Monopoly. She worries about everyone all the time. I opened the door. "I was in the area," she said quickly before I could ask her anything. "They asked me to talk to you." She set the lemon bars down on the table like they were a kind of peace flag. Then she sat down on the edge of the couch, almost like she was afraid if she sat fully, something would explode. "Things have gotten out of hand," she rushed on. "Your mom, she's really having a hard time. Your dad is angry. They're thinking about selling the house." I didn't say anything. I waited. 8 seconds passed and it felt like forever. "They're hoping you'll let them stay here," Marisol continued. "Just until things calm down. In the guest room only for a little while." I laughed. It came out too loud, echoing in the living room. Marisol flinched. "They gave me the lemon bars to bring," she said quickly. "They said you used to like them." "I do like them," I said, "but I don't like being controlled with them. I don't like being told what to do with lemon bars as a way to trick me into doing something I don't want to do." Marisol's eyes softened. For a second she wasn't their messenger. She was just a tired woman who wanted to put down a tray and not carry anyone else's secrets. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "They told me a different story." "I know," I said. "It's always me as the villain, them as the heroes." When she left, she looked back at me. "They really might sell the house," she said. "It's theirs," I said. "They can do whatever they want." After she left, I called my dad's sister, the one who always stayed out of family fights and lived safely on the high ground. "I need you to hear the whole story," I said. I started at the beginning. The roof call, the money, the party just for family, the dollhouse trick, the public post, the grocery store surprise, the coffee shop performance, the prophecy about my marriage. She didn't interrupt. She listened. When I finished, the line stayed quiet long enough for me to think it had dropped. Then she exhaled. "I had no idea," she said, and I believed her. I've been hearing a very different story. That you're ashamed of where you came from. That your wife controls you. That you're cutting them off for no reason." Her voice got lower. "I'm angry and I'm going to make some calls." "Please don't make it worse," I said. "I won't," she said. "I'll make it true." That night I typed a message to the family group chat. Took me a long time to write something so short. "I'm done. Consider me no longer part of this family. Do not call. Do not come to my house. Do not write. I am not your son, not your brother, not your nephew. This is the last message you will ever get from me." I hit send. Then I went one by one and blocked every number, every profile, every cousin with a shared bloodline and a bad memory. For 48 hours there was silence. It didn't feel like peace. Felt like waiting. Like the pause between thunder and rain. I kept expecting the next storm. And then it came. Sideways on Isolde's phone. Eloan had made a burner account and sent a message to my wife. "Hey, it's Eloan. Please talk sense into Corvin before he does something he can't take back." Isolde blocked the account. Then she looked at me. "They keep trying to pull me into a triangle that doesn't exist," she said. "They don't know I don't live there anymore." The next day one of Isolde's old coworkers texted her. "I saw your father-in-law at the old office. He said Corvin's brainwashed and being kept from his real family. Dad hadn't worked there in a decade. He had driven 30 miles just to plant a rumor in soil too dry to grow anything." That's when I understood. I hadn't just cut them off. I had taken away an identity they built for me. They were wandering, looking for a replacement doorbell to press. That evening the contractor called. "Not his assistant, him," he said carefully. "Mr. Dorian," he said. "Your parents gave me your number. They said you were handling the remaining payment on the renovation. If it doesn't come through, I may have to pursue legal action." I felt a cold line draw down my spine. "They gave me your name like it was a coupon," I said. "I am not involved. I gave them money for a roof. They used it for other things. Do not contact me again." He hesitated. "I understand. I apologize." I hung up and opened a new email account I had been keeping for legal matters. Isolde watched me type my name and password from across the room. "We're doing this," she said. "We're doing this," I said. 2 nights later, when we got home from the park, a folded card had been slid under our front door. No envelope, no postage. On the front, in gold letters, it said, "Let's start over." Inside was my mother's handwriting, the one I remembered from birthday cards and grocery lists. She said she regretted how things played out, refused to apologize, and blamed miscommunication. Then came the line that sat in my throat like a stone. "You're still our son whether you like it or not." It wasn't love. It was a deed. A claim. I threw the card away. 3 days later we saw them again at the grocery store, laughing with the parents of one of my daughter's classmates, casual and bright, pretending to be harmless. I steered our cart down another aisle, but Mom followed us to the parking lot and stopped 3 feet from the trunk. "You're going to regret this," she said. "You think you're strong now, but wait until she leaves you. We both know she will." My daughter was in the back seat, swinging her feet, counting the grapes I just bought. I closed the trunk, got in the driver's seat, and drove away without a word. My hands didn't shake this time. That night I called my aunt again. "Cut them off completely," she said. "No more chances. You don't owe them anything." For years I had wondered if there was a version of peace that didn't require a war first. Now I know. Sometimes the war is simply refusing to keep bleeding. I spent the next day scrubbing the last traces of access. I removed them from medical forms, emergency contacts, and pickup authorizations at school. I tightened the locks on every digital door. I wrote a final letter, printed my name in blue ink, sealed it, and put it in the mailbox. "You no longer have a son. You made that choice when you lied, manipulated, and humiliated me. I don't hate you. I simply won't keep bleeding for people who cut me on purpose. This is the last you'll hear from me. As far as I'm concerned, I never existed to you. Return the favor." I expected silence. Instead, the doorbell camera caught a shadow at 10:41 p.m. The next morning, a manila envelope was in our mailbox, hand-delivered, no postage. Inside were printed photos of me and my daughter taken from old Facebook albums, with a small note in the corner. "Look what you're keeping from us." My hands shook then. "I'm not proud of that. You can be right and still feel scared." I installed 3 more cameras that night. Front door, backyard, garage. I filed a police report the next morning. Not because I thought they would storm the house, but to make a paper trail before someone else wrote the story for them. That was before the note showed up in my daughter's backpack. The note was folded tight. No envelope, just a square of pink stationery that smelled faintly like my mother's perfume. My daughter handed it to me casually. "This was in my backpack," she said. "It doesn't have a name." I unfolded it. Only one sentence in looping handwriting. I knew it too well. "Real families forgive. You'll thank me one day." My blood ran cold. It wasn't just the words. It was where they had been found. In my daughter's backpack. In her world. I took a deep breath, knelt down to her level and asked, "Sweetheart, who gave you this?" She frowned, thinking hard. "I don't know. It was just there after recess." I kissed her forehead and smiled like everything was fine. But inside, every protective instinct I had was screaming. That night I called her school. The principal sounded startled when I told her what had happened. "I need you to understand," I said, laying the note on her desk. "My parents have been harassing us. They cannot contact my daughter. They cannot come here, call, or send messages through anyone. If they try again, it becomes a legal issue." The principal nodded gravely. "We'll make sure teachers know. If anyone unfamiliar tries to approach her, we'll notify you immediately." I thanked her, then went home and did something I should have done weeks ago. I filled out the restraining order forms. I hadn't filed them yet, but having them ready made me breathe easier. For a while there was quiet again. But it wasn't peaceful. It was the heavy, watchful kind of silence that feels like someone standing just outside your window. Then came the emails. 3 of them were sent to my work account, which my parents should never have known. No message body, just subject lines. "We raised you better. You're making a mistake. We forgive you anyway." I felt the weight of all of it. But I also felt the strength of finally standing up for myself. I stared at the screen for a long time. My hands hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't type anything yet. Every message they had sent me was mean, tricky, and designed to make me look bad. I knew I had to keep proof. So, slowly I forwarded each message to HR. My manager called me later that day. Her face was worried and her eyebrows drew together. "Do you need security to walk you out safely at night?" she asked, her voice full of concern. I almost laughed, but I didn't. "No," I said firmly. "I just need documentation. Proof of what's happening." I knew exactly what they were trying to do. They wanted to trap me at work, corner me, ruin my reputation, make me look like I was unstable. They wanted me to react angrily, to slip up so they could say, "See? He's crazy." But I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. Not even a little. 2 days later things escalated. A manila envelope appeared in our mailbox. There was no stamp, no return address. I felt my stomach twist as I opened it. Inside were printed photos. Old ones that had clearly been taken from social media. Pictures of me at my daughter's 5th birthday. Pictures of Isolde and me at the park. My daughter is swinging happily on a swing set. In the corner of one photo someone had written in fancy curly handwriting, "Look what you're keeping from us." My hands shook so badly that I nearly dropped the photos. I wasn't shaking because I was afraid. I was shaking with rage. With pure cold anger. That night I didn't sleep. I installed more cameras around the house. One above the garage, one covering the side gate, another pointing at the street. The little red recording lights glowed like tiny shields. Like a silent army watching over us. When I told Isolde what I was doing, she pressed her hand against her mouth. Her eyes were wide, filled with worry. "They're using her," she whispered. "They're using our daughter to get to you." I nodded. I understood. But I wasn't going to let them succeed. I filed an official harassment report with the local police the next day. The officer listened carefully, took notes, and even promised extra patrols around our neighborhood for a week. But I knew how these things usually went. Paperwork meant protection only on paper. Reality was slower. Protection came in real life only if you built it yourself. At home, I turned our living room into a war room. I printed copies of every text, every screenshot, every timestamp from our doorbell camera. I labeled each file carefully like evidence in a case. I didn't do this to hurt anyone. I did it because I wanted to be ready for when they tried to destroy me. To protect myself and, more importantly, to protect Isolde and my daughter. A week later they tried again. It started with Aloan posting an old photo on social media. A picture of my mother holding my daughter as a baby. The caption read, "She was so loved. She just doesn't know it anymore." Then another post appeared. Funny how some people scream boundaries just to cover up their guilt. I didn't respond. I never respond. But that didn't mean it didn't hurt. Seeing my daughter's face used like bait made something cold settle deep in my chest. Isolde reached across the couch and squeezed my hand. "They want your reaction," she said quietly. "Don't give it to them." I squeezed back. I wouldn't give them anything. Still, I wasn't prepared for what came next. A stranger, one of Isolde's old coworkers, called her out of the blue. "I just ran into your father-in-law," she said awkwardly. "He's worried. He told me Corvin's going through a rough time and that you've isolated him." Isolde's face was drained of color. "He's telling people I'm abusive," she said softly, almost in disbelief. I nodded. They were rewriting the story again. Same script, new villain. That night my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I didn't answer. Minutes later a voicemail appeared. It was my mom. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "We just want to talk. This has gone too far. You know we'd never hurt you. We're family." Then her voice changed. Lower, harder. "But you can't keep her from us forever. Sooner or later she'll come looking for her grandparents. And what will you tell her then? That we didn't love her." I deleted the message immediately but saved the transcript for my records. Later that night I checked the cameras before bed. Motion alert. 11:22 p.m. The feed showed a car idling across the street for nearly 5 minutes. Then a figure stepped out, walked to our mailbox and slipped something inside. I froze the frame, zoomed in. The person was wearing dark, fuzzy clothing, hair tied back, thin figure. Could have been anyone, but my gut told me. The next morning I found a single card inside the mailbox. On the front was a watercolor of a smiling boy. Inside was another note. "We'll see her soon. You can't hide forever." No signature. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just trying to upset me. This wasn't just mean words or manipulation. This was a campaign. A slow, careful siege meant to wear me down until I surrendered. Instead it did the opposite. Clarified something for me. They didn't want forgiveness. They wanted access. They wanted control. And I was done letting them write the story of my life. I spent that weekend cutting every possible thread they could pull. I removed them from our medical records. Took them off the emergency contact list at my daughter's school. Changed our home security password to a 16-character string only Isolde and I could memorize. Every little door they could open I closed. Then I did one last thing. I sat down at my desk and wrote a letter I should have written long ago. To my parents, "You no longer have a son. You made that choice when you lied, manipulated, and used my family against me. I don't hate you. I simply refuse to keep bleeding for people who cut me on purpose. This is the last you'll ever hear from me. As far as I'm concerned, I never existed to you. Please return the favor." I printed it, signed my name, sealed it in an envelope and mailed it. I thought that would be the end. But 2 days later an email from my lawyer arrived with a single line that made my chest tighten. My parents had filed a small claims petition. They were suing me for $8,000. When the envelope came through certified mail I already knew what it was. The heavy, government-stamped envelope, my name printed formally, the courthouse logo staring up. It carried a feeling I recognized. Dread. Inside were 8 pages of absurd claims. They said I had sent them $8,000 months ago as a gift, then stole it back without permission. They even used the words verbal agreement. I laughed, but not the funny kind. It was the stunned, breathless laugh of someone watching a building collapse in slow motion. When Isolde got home I handed her the papers. She read the first paragraph, then lowered it carefully. "You've got to be kidding me," she said, shaking her head. "They're serious," I said. "They've built a whole reality out of lies." She leaned against the counter, rubbing her temple. "So what do we do?" I looked at her calmly, beyond shock. "We finished it. We called Celine Caver, the same lawyer who had helped us file the harassment report." She sounded almost amused. "They're claiming you defrauded them? That's creative. Don't worry, we'll handle it." Still, when I hung up, I couldn't stop picturing them sitting across from a judge, telling this ridiculous story with absolute conviction. That was what they did best, perform sincerity. But something unexpected happened. People around them started coming forward. First, my aunt, who had always stayed neutral. She called me and said, "I'm done staying quiet. I'll testify if they push this. She even emailed screenshots of text from my mom, full of contradictions. Then came cousin Marisol, the lemon bar messenger. She texted me late one night. I can't believe this is happening. I'm sorry. If you need a statement, I'll give one. And she did. She wrote down everything. Every manipulation, every instruction to soften me up. Even the contractor stepped forward. He left a voicemail. For what it's worth, I told them I'd write something for you. You never handled any payment and your name was never on the renovation paperwork. Piece by piece, their story unraveled before we even went to court. When the hearing finally came, I wore the same gray suit I'd worn to job interviews years ago. Clean lines, no flash. Isolde sat beside me, her hand steady on mine. Across the aisle, Mom wore pearls and a trembling smile. Dad sat rigid, eyes fixed on the table, pretending none of this was happening. The judge, a woman in her 50s with a voice that could cut glass, scanned the paperwork. You're alleging your son took funds you claim were gifted to you after you misrepresented their intended use? She asked. Mom blinked rapidly. He's twisted everything. We're the victims here. We only wanted help. He turned it into punishment. And you used the funds for a home renovation and a party? Mom's mouth opened then closed. It was a celebration of family. Except he wasn't invited, the judge said dryly. Dad cleared his throat. We thought it would cause tension. The judge leaned back. Mr. and Mrs. Dorian, this isn't family therapy. This is a court of law. Your son has documented proof of the transaction and your misuse of funds. This is frankly a gross misuse of legal resources. Case dismissed. It was over in less than 10 minutes. But of course Mom couldn't let it end quietly. As the judge stood, she rose too, her voice slicing through the quiet courtroom. He's not our son anymore. He doesn't deserve what we gave him. Every head turned. Her voice cracked on the word son. It echoed across the room. And for the first time in my life I smiled at her because she had said it out loud. She didn't love me. She loved control. She loved the version of me that obeyed, that apologized first, that opened my wallet when she cried. And now, stripped of that version, all she had left was rage. I walked out of the courtroom feeling lighter than I had in years. Outside, the winter air hit like baptism, cold, clean, real. Celine grinned. I've seen a lot of messy families, but this one might make the highlight reel. I laughed. Just glad it's off my record and off my life. Not just off your life, Isolde said. Out of it. Truly out of it. From that day on, the silence was complete. No more letters, no more calls, no sudden grocery store ambushes. It was as if they had vanished into the void they created. Months passed. Our daughter thrived. She stopped asking about them entirely. Her world shrank to what was safe, our home, our love. Her laughter echoed through hallways that no longer carried ghosts. One evening, after putting her to bed, I sat at the kitchen table, the same place I had once opened that first desperate call from Mom about the roof. I pulled out a checkbook I hadn't used in years. Isolde joined me, resting her chin on my shoulder. Ready? She asked. I nodded and wrote the amount, $8,000. The memo line read, for those still learning how to rebuild. We donated it to a local nonprofit that provides safe housing for women and children escaping abusive homes. When I signed the check, something inside me loosened. It wasn't forgiveness. It was reclamation, taking what they had twisted and turning it into something good. Isolde kissed my cheek. Full circle, she whispered. Exactly, I said. 2 months later we moved into a new house. Fresh paint, new locks, unlisted address. I didn't tell anyone, not even my aunt who had helped me. Some things are safer unshared. Our daughter picked her room by choosing the one with the biggest window. Can we hang stars on the ceiling? She asked. Every single one, I said. That night when the lights went out, she whispered, I like this house better. It feels like ours. I smiled into the dark. That's because it is. For the first time in years, sleep came easy. No phone on the nightstand, no camera alerts, no adrenaline waiting to flood my veins. Just the steady breath of my wife beside me, my daughter's soft snores down the hall, and a silence that wasn't waiting to be broken. People say cutting off family is cruel. But sometimes survival looks like cruelty to those who benefit from your pain. They wanted me to regret walking away. Instead, I built a life they'll never touch again. Because when people only love the version of you that serves them, Walking away isn't betrayal.